Welcome to Chaos, Courage and Coffee, the podcast for anyone who's felt like on the outside I'm holding it together, but inside I'm struggling.
And we do it with honesty, heart, and just enough coffee to get through the day. Hello, Brett. Lovely to be here again.
Thank you, Vanessa. It's nice to see you too.
So today we are diving into something that so many of us feel but don't always say out loud. That feeling of being invisible or being unnoticed. Someone who's just faded into the background.
This can be quite hard for a lot of people. It's when we're not seen, we feel not seen, obviously, but it affects our self-confidence and our self-esteem. And that then has a lot of flow-on effects.
Yeah, it's kind of a snowball. And you know what? I think it's one of those things that you almost don't notice sneaking up on you. Have you heard of the thing about the boiled frog? So just for the listeners who haven't, it's a really interesting thing. But if you were to put a frog in boiling water, I know, I'm not going to do it. You wouldn't do it. But if you were to put a frog in boiling water, it would jump out, right? Of course it would. That makes sense. But the interesting thing about frogs is if you put it in cold water and you turn the heat up slowly and the water comes to the boil, the frog doesn't jump out, so it dies. I can relate to this. This is what happens to us. You don't notice it sneaking up on you and it's creeping into your life until one day you're like, whoa, what happened?
It's all the recognition that we may have seen before or may have experienced. So for mums, perhaps in workplaces, for veterans in the military doing the job. But when we get out, when things change, we're not seen the same way. We don't have that same identity. And the work we do, the load we carry isn't necessarily seen or recognized, but by those who are important to us.
I'm actually going to add on to that.
Okay.
Not even noticed and recognized, certainly in the case of my mum's, by ourselves. We do not even go, well, I did well, look at what I'm doing. We are neglecting ourselves from that point of view. So nobody, not even ourselves, are noticing.
And I think you're right there. I think that goes for a lot of people, not just mums, veterans, dads. It really covers everybody. I think we just do so much as part of our expected load. I just do it. I just get on and get it done. And we don't get that recognition. We don't get the appreciation, the gratitude necessarily. And I know for a lot of men, in a lot of circumstances, that's the only thing they really want out of life, or the main thing they want is just that recognition that you do these things. And for mums, I'd expect it's the same. I know what my wife went through when I was still in the military and she was taking care of everything, I should say. I was gone for weeks, months at a time, and she was it. She did everything, I suppose, a lot like any other single mum.
And the thing is, you cannot expect kids to show gratitude. So here you are, giving all day. And if you haven't got a partner or your partner's not appreciating you, and if you're not appreciating you, certainly don't expect your kids to appreciate you. So there you are doing all these things, working behind the scenes mentally, keeping on top of doctor's appointments and stuff. And it's just passing everybody by.
Absolutely. And we lose our own identity in this. Who are we? Veterans, when they're in the military, they have a uniform, they have a rank, they have a role, which is recognized by everybody inside and outside the military. But when they leave, they lose the rank, the identity of being a service person, that specific role. They just become, I suppose, one face in many other faces. And yeah, I imagine it would be the same for mums.
Yeah, I think talking about identity, it's really important because if you probably stop a mum in the street and you say, "Who are you?" So many of them will start with, "Oh, I'm a mum of 2 kids," and then they'll talk about their kids. So who are they? Well, I don't think they know because it's not the first thing that comes out of their mouth. So you are a mum with kids. You are what you do, and the whole person you were before kids probably truly has disappeared. You've just, stuffed them away under the covers for now. What, you just hope you're going to pick them up later and you think you're not going to suffer for not being a person?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things that I think we all do it. We identify with roles, but not who we really are as a person, our own identity. Our wants, our needs, desires, the things that light us up that we enjoy doing don't disappear just because our lives change or our role changes. And I think that's where we lose some of that identity. We lose that zest for life, I think you could say, when we get lost in those roles and we lose that identity.
Well, we would because our zest from life can only come when our needs are met. And that's our true core needs. And if they're not being met, it's like it's like not watering a plant. You're just going to wither and die. And there's all these mums wondering why they just feel really rubbish. And it's not changing and it's not getting better. And to be honest, if your kids are 5, you've got another 13 years before they leave home, at least. And you're probably planning not to emerge until they leave home. Well, that's a long time to neglect yourself. So your needs, you are neglecting your needs because you are focusing on everybody else's kind of day-to-day needs. So it's your core needs you're neglecting.
Absolutely. And it's the same for dads, veterans, adults generally. I'm going to get away from the veterans, pull back from that a little bit. I'm just going to say adults. We all do it. We neglect our own needs in favor of the family or the role or whatever we think society or life expects from us, which, if we're not, there's a saying about cups. We can't fill somebody else's cup if our cup is not full. And by that, it's our emotional cup that we're really talking about, our energetic cup. Um, if we're not topping up ourselves, how can we do it for other people? So, and, that leaves us feeling unseen, unvalued, because we're not bringing that energy to others, and therefore we will be unappreciated.
Yeah, because we don't have that energy within us anymore. And one of the reasons I think that this happens, I mean, we've already kind of hinted at some of them, but another one is that mums are so busy. And I think that's like today's world. It's all about being busy. And we're piling more on. So we're always going to be too busy because we just kind of keep adding on things that we need to do. And the problem is then, I bet a lot of mums will say, "Well, I haven't got time for me." It's like, no, you haven't. And you're not going to have time for you whilst you keep piling on all these other things that are related to other people. The only way you're going to have time for you is if you put some things in for you.
We have to make ourselves, to some extent, a priority at some point. And if we are not the priority, if we're not prioritizing ourselves, then who else is going to do it for us? So we need to, we're unseen in a lot of circumstances because we do things, but nobody notices until something goes wrong or it's missing. Or in the case of veterans, you know, people can't relate to us. They don't share the same lived experience that military personnel have had. And, it's something very unique. And so they go to networking events, social events or whatever, and, they struggle to connect. And I was actually speaking to a veteran about this a little while ago. He's from the US, So he's a US military veteran, and he said he went back to university or college, they call it, and he really struggled the first few years to make friends while he was at college, until he joined a political student group, and having that shared interest, he was able then to start making friends because they had those common interests. And that was when he started to build connections and feel seen once again. He was just that older guy around campus who didn't fit in because of his previous life experience and his military service.
There's a good point you got, like looking at your interests. If you make time for one of your interests, you become a real person because it's something outside of your identity, in this case of being a mum. But I did think it was interesting something you said there about, oh, you want someone else to notice because if no one else notices. And it's like, yeah, but we don't realize we can notice ourselves as well. And we're waiting for it to be from someone else. And once you realize you could do it for yourself, that actually puts you back in the driving seat. You don't have to sit there waiting for someone else anymore. No, you can be the one who notices you and champions yourself and says, well done to yourself.
Absolutely. Which goes back to filling your own cup. You've got to do, nobody else is going to look out for you like you can. And so we need to take that responsibility sometimes on ourselves to what's important to me, or ask those questions and reflect inwards. What is important? What do I need to do? How can I solve this?
It's interesting. I was speaking to a client just earlier, and it's a little bit about what are you making it mean to you, and what are you, it's the whole, are you moving towards something or away from something? And we're so busy with what's in our head and probably running ourselves down that we could actually do with flipping it so that we start noticing ourselves and we're moving towards something. And yeah, what we said before, really championing yourself. And it's, you saying it about you, but not the negative, which is what you've got stuck into, the spiral of the negatives. Flip it around and start changing it to the positives.
Yeah, I think you're right. Haven't we talked about moving away and moving towards before?
Yeah, we have, exactly. And so it's so key and important because as humans, we're actually negatively wired. So if you think about it in our primitive days, to keep ourselves safe, we got to look for danger. So we're looking for negative. So, maybe it'll come up every time in every podcast, Brett, because it's so important. You need to look for the positive because if you're wired negative, you're just not seeing it, and it takes quite a lot of retraining. Now, I did a presentation a night or two ago, and I was talking to the mums about that. The positive, looking for the positive, but also we talked about how to say no, but in a different way. And she said, "Well, that's just hard. How am I going to think about that?" And I said, "It's going to be retraining. You're going to have to almost prepare." Or prepare a few different ones so that you can do it on the spot because you have to retrain. And it isn't, nobody said it's easy. Retraining from the negative to the positive, but it's worth it.
Absolutely. And it's about catching those negative thoughts. It's
Mm.
catching those negative patterns that are so ingrained in us. And, when we identify, no, I don't want to be that. I want to be this way, and making that shift and changing that language and changing those thought patterns. Um, and as you say, it's about practice. Practice when you're calm helps build the, I suppose you could say, automatic response when you're in stress. So it becomes easier over time. We're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to slip back into the old habits. That's okay. It's about practicing, doing better. Okay, I did it wrong this time. Next time I'll try to do better and do it this way. So a little bit of self-love, a little bit of self-forgiveness, all works in there too.
So it's interesting thinking now about like, oh, so what have we said today? We've said people are invisible, but what's interesting is when we started, it's like they're invisible to other people. And we've kind of flipped it around and said by creating this awareness, how about you start being visible to yourself and seeing what your needs are and what's important to you, not waiting for it to come from outside, but starting to do it within yourself.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. You know, we can't expect others to give us something that we're not prepared to give ourselves, or do for us what we're not prepared to do for ourselves. So people will see what you project to the world. And if you're not projecting that self-love, that self-kindness, that interest, that spark, then you're really not going to get that back.
Well, I'm going to, it's interesting you said we can't expect. It's like, but we do. That's the problem, right? We shouldn't, but we do. And maybe therein lies the beginning of the solution. Stop expecting from everybody else.
Yeah. That, and well, if we take that a step further, um, a lot of those expectations are not expressed. We don't tell people what we need. We just expect them to read minds. Well, my mind reading ability is broken. I'm sorry. I can't read minds. We need to speak words. And when you speak those words to me, I can understand and I can try to do that. But if you're not
It,
communicating,
and it is interesting because there's nothing wrong with helping the other person to get it right. Hey, I'd love you to notice that I did this today, or hey, look what I did today. And we don't, we just want all the rest of the world to guess that we want them to say that. And we're looking, who's going to say it? Who's going to say it? Help the people out. Go, hey, it was really good what I did today. Like I could say that. I'm telling everybody I did a presentation locally recently. I did a really good presentation. Just to prompt them that they need to say, oh, well done, Vanessa. Yes, well done, me. Exactly.
look, there's nothing wrong with that. I just built some new content that I've published, and you know, I'm proud of the content that I've put out there. So it's all those little wins. We've got to be proud of ourselves. We have to, and we've talked about this before, we have to embrace those small wins and recognize them for ourselves. And, you know, sometimes we have to blow our own trumpet and say, hey, look at me, here I am. And there's nothing wrong with that, in moderation. You know, we're not promoting, you know, negative behaviors or going over the top self-aggrandizement or anything like that. But hey, it's okay to be proud of what you've done. And when you do something that you are happy with, by all means, let people know. And if you need a little bit more, again, communicate those needs to people. They can help you. They can help give that to you. But remember also, just because you've said it once doesn't mean they're going to remember and you're going to get it all the time.
And maybe, of course, it's not just the big things. So I was just sitting here thinking while listening to you, you know what? I'm going to challenge myself this week to notice not just the big things, but some of the small things that perhaps I do every day, and just to notice and just show some acknowledgement to myself. So I'd love for everybody, this can include you, Brett, as well. Let's just create some awareness and challenge yourself. What's one thing you're going to notice and say to yourself, well done for doing that this week.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So let's lay it out there for everybody. So as Vanessa just did, one thing this week that you're proud of, whether you did it or notice something for somebody else, will probably go even further. So I'd extend your challenge, Vanessa. I'd go two things. One thing that you're proud of yourself doing, and one thing that you can appreciate somebody else doing.
Wow, we could spread so much appreciation around the world.
We can, absolutely.
Well, anything else that we should say as a summary today?
Um, I'd just like to say, you don't have to start big, start small. Take that first step. Recognize it in yourself. Recognize yourself, see yourself, and see your own accomplishments.
Mm. Thank you. I like that.
So,
Thank you for joining us today.
thank you all, and thank you, Vanessa.
Thanks for being with us today on Chaos, Courage and Coffee. Remember, you're not alone and you don't have to figure it all out at once. What part of today's conversation stood out for you?
This podcast is about showing up in the mess, not waiting until it's all sorted out. If today helped, share it with someone else who might need it too.
And if you're navigating your own version of chaos, we'd love to hear about it. Leave a comment, message us, or join the conversation.
We'll be back soon with more honest talk, less pressure, and just enough courage to get through whatever's next.
See you next time on Chaos, Courage and Coffee.